Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the next preview video. This is for Module 2. I hope that your first week went well and that you were able to complete all the assignments. A note about this week, and because I always get questions in Module 2, not every week has a discussion board. In fact, this week does not. So every assignment you turn in this week is due by Sunday night. There's no discussion board to be had. Let's get into the work of the week. So I'm in our course menu. I'm in learning modules. I'm in module 2 here. And remember, this is just sort of a preview of the work that we can click on, give you a nice overview of the work that you're going to be doing. We're really going to be focused on sort of the writing situation. And what we mean by that is this combination of the genre, audience, purpose, and subject. And for this assignment, we're going to be analyzing those things in our next writing assignment. And so you can go through and take a look at this module at a glance. But as we get into the work, we want to think about those things, the genre and audience specifically for this assignment. And so the best way to think about this, you're going to be working on with the same article that you used, one of those three that you picked last week, whichever one can continue with the same one, right? We're building an essay over time. And so we want to think about the genre and specifically the intended audience. And so what we mean by that is obviously anyone can read an assignment or an article rather, but think about who specifically the author was intending for this to be written towards. Um, a lot of these have to do with work, with uh, time management, with burnout, that sort of thing. So think about who particularly is this author targeting uh, for to read this article, right? It's probably not kindergartners, right? So it's not written in a way that kindergartners would understand or apply to their lives. So think about what groups of people would best benefit from this, who the author had in mind. That's kind of what we're doing here, is identifying the audience or a target audience. And obviously there's not necessarily a correct answer here. There's a correct-ish answer though. And what we mean by that is as long as you can justify back up with information from the text, support from the text, who you think this intended audience is, then you can go with that. So you're going to read through this. This has a little information on genre, on audience, on purpose and subject, which will be important things later. Combined, these are all the writing situation as well. And this is a summary of those key concepts. So be sure to read that. This week's readings from the textbook are specific to subgenres in chapter 2. And chapter 3 is very important for this assignment, specifically this one right here on audiences, and not only who the audience is for the work that you're reading. In other words, they've written the work for someone, but we're going to start thinking about who might benefit from reading our own writing. And yes, I know ultimately I am reading your writing. I understand that, but we're going to imagine that this exists in the greater conversation outside of just our online classroom, and imagining that you're publishing this, right? Who could benefit from your analysis of this specific work, right? So we're going to think about that as well. Determining your audience here as well. And there's also a video on an introduction to writing, audience and writing situation, that is very beneficial for the work that you will do this week. So what is the work that you will do this week, right? So module 2.1, reading response, exploring the text. Again, you find all the instructions here, the guidelines and rubric. So we'll go ahead and click on that. So again, you're going to continue to work with that same text that you chose for your project, whatever you did for module 1, you're going to use that again. And you're going to think about specifically about the audience and writing situation in relation to genre, core idea, and purpose, using the template, right? Which is right here. You'll use that template. There's also a reading response exemplar, so a student exemplar that you can check on just to see how they did it as well. But you're going to answer these questions, okay? These are the questions you're going to answer. So you're going to identify a possible primary audience for the text. Again, so who do you think is this intended for? Maybe there are some other ones that you could get into, other audiences for the text. And you want to explain why both of these are sort of appropriate regarding the genre of the text, right? That's what I said. So there's a right-ish answer, and what I mean by that is you have to support it using the text, right? And you want to also explain why there are other possible ones. So there's several possibilities you can go with here, okay? And then the last question has to do with how the writer is attracting or guiding the audience, right? So how does the writer capture the attention of the audience? And so what we mean by that is there might be specific things, specific clues, context clues, or ways that they phrase things that would be of interest or that specific audience would be particularly knowledgeable about, right? So you want to think about how the author does that as well. Okay, and this is the template or the rubric rather that I will be grading your work on, so you can check that out as well. All right. So that's the first one. And then you have a second one, which is the Module 2 written response guideline. So the first one is the reading response. It has to do directly with the article. You're identifying the audiences for the article, etc. This one, the second assignment, has to do with your own project, right? So thinking about your writing in this case, right? Make sure you do this. So some people think that this is just one assignment twice. They're completely different, okay? This one, you're answering these questions about your writing, about your project, right? So you're going to identify a specific audience for your project. So who needs an analysis of this text, right? And that will be your primary audience. And then you want to identify a second audience. Who else could use this information? And then later on in the semester, you're going to be writing two analysis essays, one to this first audience in module 5 and one to the second one in module 7. And so that's kind of where we're headed for this term, right? And you want to describe the writing situation for your project, all right? So who would be in the benefit from this? How would this fit in with the greater conversation? What genre would this be? It would be an analysis, right? And go on from there. And then you also want to explain why each audience is appropriate for the content and writing situation that you've chosen. Okay. Again, you're going to use this response template. There's also an exemplar, and there's a rubric down here as well. So again, there are 2 written assignments this week. I don't want you to be confused. So this is preview for next week. So we'll go back to our main page here. There are 2 written assignments this week. One is a reading response in which you are engaging with the audience and core ideas from the article that you have chosen, the same one that you use in module 1. And then the second reading response is looking ahead to your own writing situation. We're identifying an audience, a couple possible audiences who would benefit from reading your analysis of this article. I know it's a little bit confusing, 2 separate assignments, but if you have questions, a great place to ask those questions is in the general questions discussion, because I guarantee if you are confused by something, someone else is, and they're just not asking. So checking there, you can also email me if you would rather not do that publicly. But it is a great place to ask those questions. That way your peers can see as well. All right. All right, that's it for the week. Have a wonderful week. Send me emails if you have questions, and we'll talk again next week.